Yeah.
Yeah, so Uppity is about this fella called Willie T. Ribbs. He's a famous race car driver. Basically, he's known for the being the first black driver in the Indianapolis Indy 500. And super famous thing, and they just kind of go through his life. He's the subject and kind of main talking head interview driven documentary they decide to go with. And I'll admit he's not all that charismatic. The first half of this is just kind of boring and straightforward. The documentary itself, I'll say I don't love all that much, but then they get into the
How,
second half,
how,
focuses on
how,
him.
how long is this show, by the way?
Close to 2 hours, about an hour and 40 some minutes, I'm sure. I forget the actual
Wow.
time. Yeah, and he himself kind of not that charismatic, because it's all about him being have a lot of confidence, and a big part of it is just about race. As a black man having to deal with all this bullshit. He talk about his life and his career, his dad's life and his grandfather's life. His dad used to do a little bit of racing. And then they just get into like why it is that he never really do as well as he could have, and the answer boils down to two things, and both of them kind of intertwined and interconnected: racism and money. That's it.
Ah, I
Like,
see, I see.
you know, yeah,
Ah, boy, when they actually do go hand in hand, eh?
right. And he had to effectively, a big part of it was just not having the right right people, the right some of the people was kind of actively undermining him. In one case in Formula One, it's quite possible that he could have died because of one of the cars being badly designed. Is implied that one of the designers didn't really give a shit about him in terms of safety, because like he's a black driver, so like F him. And yeah,
Wow.
they get into all of that. They talk about him having to deal with sponsors. They touch upon it because they know it was a touchy issue. But Bill Cosby was one of his sponsors at one point, so they had to
Huh?
say, well, yeah, this was 20 years, before all the bullshit about Cosby come out anyway. So whatever.
Right.
All of this at the early 90s.
Okay,
Um,
okay.
yeah, and they just run through his career of where he was successful, where he make his bones. He started off in Formula Four, then he went to the Trans Am circuit, then he went. Well, no, he really started off in Formula Four in England, did pretty well. Came back to America, didn't really wasn't getting too much feedback. Did the Trans Am circuit, then he was kind of bought out, and he just kind of bounced back and forth as a driver. And yeah, he's a super talented driver. And he kind of compare himself to something like like more like Muhammad Ali, if anything. He called himself the Muhammad Ali of, racing in a sense, now, which is a bit of a stretch because,
Yeah, I was gonna say that. I was gonna say that.
right. He's somebody I did kind of know as a racer, just knowing recent history myself. But not I didn't really know his story in depth. And this kind of just run through that as a decent documentary. It was made by Adam Carolla,
Oh,
which is
really?
interesting. Yes, he was the producer of this. And it sounded like something that would have come out of the Man Show anyway. Like, the Man Show used to have these bits about history and how much of a
Yes.
badass or manliness this person was. And yeah, this is what it was. It's like extended talking about macho-ness and being having the balls to do this and that to the other. And well, the big culmination and finale of the documentary was him having to qualify for the Indy 500, and how what happens that they keep having engines blow, and they had to get an engine, and then if that engine kind of blew and they say, well, on this last thing they had to barely make it, and he made it. He ended up making it, and that was like the big thing about the documentary. It gets into all of that. They talk about history. They talk about his relationship with earlier drivers, which was pretty good. I'll say he himself not particularly charismatic. I felt they probably shouldn't have focused on him, or they should have just get a narrator in general. They probably should have done that. That was like the big mistake with it, because he himself being the talking head, the main talking head, he's kind of boring. Sorry, I didn't think he was that engaging or had any that particularly good screen presence in his current age now. But it was pretty good as a documentary overall. Not as great as something like Senna or anything like that, but still a solid recent documentary. And yeah, I recommend it. I recommend watching it. We do the Black History Month thing now, so I
Yeah.
recommend it. Yeah, I give
Right.
it like a good 7 out of 10, if anything.
Okay. Cool. 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 I'll give it a look. Well, now that you mentioned it to me and recommended, right? Okay.
Right.
Last but not least, let's talk quickly about Who Killed Malcolm X, right? This
Oh,
was a six-part docu-series. It's
yeah.
a Netflix exclusive, actually, but it was released on Netflix, right? And
Yeah.
in a nutshell, it's about this activist. He's also a Muslim by the name of Abdul Rahman Muhammad, and
Yeah.
essentially he has been influenced by the teachings of Malcolm X, right? But also he was impacted by his murder back in
Yeah.
1965, right?
Yeah.
Which basically is partly unsolved, mainly because, well, one person who was arrested, well, he kind of confessed that, well, there were two other guys who were arrested along with him. Those two people were not part of were not part of the scheme basically to kill Malcolm X, right? There were three other
Right.
people involved. One of whom was the guy who had the shotgun, which, well, was the who delivered the shots basically that killed Malcolm X himself, right? So yeah, so Abdul Rahman basically just goes really deep, like really extensive, almost to the point of obsession actually, but not too far. And he's just like just trying to get a lot of information, whatnot, and the docu-series pretty much follows his journey whilst we are seeing, Malcolm X's history, right? And it also is partly a whodunit too, because
Right.
yeah, kind of slight spoiler, we do actually find out who the trigger man was, or who the shotgun man, as they call him, was. That's what the show's about.
Right. Yeah. For me, this was the thing with this documentary is that it didn't really teach me anything brand new. They claiming it did, but like if you're kind of marginally familiar with any of this stuff, you would be like, well, I kind of know this already, and you don't really know.
Well, I was gonna say too, if you've seen Spike Lee's Malcolm X, by the way,
Right.
yeah, that well, I haven't got around. I don't feel about it because my history teacher actually had the book, but he never wanted to lend it. That would be the autobiography of Malcolm X. Like, if you've
Right.
read
Yeah.
that,
Which I have.
then
Yeah.
yeah, you should be familiar with, like, well, everything that they say about his life and his drama, his ups and downs with the Nation of Islam, with Elijah Muhammad, and all that other stuff, basically. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. That's the thing, though. It was good, but I didn't learn anything new in this per se. Like nothing really. Like all the names I already know. But what the important part of this I liked was more the journey of making the documentary was more interesting, I thought. Um,
Yes.
and what he had to go through and how he was thinking about it. And the idea of, well, all of them dead, all of them just kind of dead. And, in a sense, he kind of feel that it take too long for him to do it. And, it kind of reminded me of the Irishman a little bit. It's just age take all of them. And it was kind of pointless.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Plus, in the end,
Mm.
it's similar to,
Yeah.
Malcolm X is kind of like a Jimmy Hoffa figure in that sense. Getting in
Yeah.
the way, and then ultimately they end in the big spoiler for the end and what happened to who the trigger man was and what happened
Yeah.
to him.
That moment though, which you don't want to spoil, I was like,
Yeah.
wow, man, that was
Yes,
that was some that was pure drama right there. Like,
yeah.
like, if this if this was like if this was fictional actually, this would have been like, so powerful though, but because it's real, it's like, wow, man, like the timing of it. But that's all we'll see. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's a solid documentary because of that's just the historic nature of the entire thing. Malcolm himself, his life and history, his relationship with Elijah Muhammad, like all this stuff with Elijah Muhammad and that back and forth was engaging stuff, at least how the documentary framed it.
Yeah.
Again, nothing new to me, but still very good. And yeah, I think just as a good refresher course kind of thing, it works. If you're not familiar
Yes.
with the material at all, you should see this. For
Yeah.
those who already kind of familiar with this, well, still watch it, but like it wasn't nothing mind blowing or interesting, but still like a good solid documentary. Really competent overall in my opinion. Having that guy as the center figure, I forget the basically the researcher and all
Yeah.
of the history stuff involving the FBI, the other historian they got, white guy, he's pretty good too.
Yes. He
Um,
was. He was.
and then they just did everybody's perspective and then cobbled together a really good narrative for it. And they make it work in terms of Malcolm X's his legacy itself, who he was as a person, how he used to think, the back and forth with his life and all the, they keep, dripping history of his life through the beginning of each episode, which really worked and was smart, instead of dumping all of that into one episode. I thought the format and approached it just very, very competent structurally and in terms of the approach and storytelling. I thought it just set up a real good narrative, but no brand new information, at least for me, right? For somebody who marginally or largely familiar with the material, I thought I would have learned something brand new in this, and like, nah, I didn't really have anything brand new. There's a couple names and a couple little reframings here or there that kind of made it interesting, but nothing brand new to the discussion. I think the big lesson is the whole idea that they kind of take too long, and a lot of people should have made a better effort when the information came out when it did that was to me the real lesson of this. That there's a whole statement: justice delayed is justice denied, and that's how I saw a lot of this. And that was interesting. But everything else was kind of just normal. But
Right.
still good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Still well.
I totally agree with you. I
Right.
have seen a few articles stating that they may reopen the case just off the
Right.
information about, is this guy, and the guy, what are the people accused of the murder actually, who actually was innocent, right? So yeah,
Right.
looking into his case as well. So that's pretty interesting as well. But I
Right.
do agree with you totally. If you are familiar with those things, yes, a majority of the stuff would come as brand new. But if you're like new to this, like let me just say you just want to know historically what went down,
Right.
you know what I mean? Then yeah, this
Yeah.
is an absolute must see. Um,
Yeah.
and this, like, I agree with you. Yes, it's competent, it's well made. Um, you may find that each and every episode is 43 minutes.
Right.
Just the structure of everything, though, it's just so tight, so neat, right?
Yeah.
As far as gripes, though, like technical gripes, like I don't know if it was just the format or if they just had it as automatic or manual. Little minor gripes, though, but ever so often, like when they're zeroing in on a interviewee, sometimes it will just kind of focus. You will see it on screen, so I just like
Right.
it happened a few times. I just felt like, okay, y'all gonna go about that a lot better, in my opinion. Also, I really dug the music partly, which was done by Prince Paul. You know what I mean? Great hip hop producer. I saw his little inflections on the music there, and it fits the
Yeah.
tone of it. You know what I mean? Where it's about Black Power and pride and whatnot.
Right.
Just see that archival footage was great. You know what I mean? Just the
Yes.
moments
Yes.
that they
That was
recap
brilliant.
really reminded me of of Spike Lee's film. You know, still a great film. And yeah, just the quality of that archival footage as well too. I mean, yeah, that's something to really commend as well. But yeah, you know what I mean, as a 6-part series is great. Seeing the whodunit part, and just seeing the guy's journey to find out the truth is great. And it almost, but doesn't exactly mirror, that of Malcolm X. You know what I mean? Him wanting to reveal the truth, him wanting to let the world know what's really going on. You know what I mean? It was almost there, but it doesn't exactly. But I like that it was like, the guy, the lead was trying to be Malcolm X. It's just like, well, we need to know. And yeah, just his journey though is something that you have to commend the man for, man, because the man literally do something that other people just kind of dismiss or just be like, and you literally do see it on screen, like, yeah, just forget about it, move on. But he just had
Yeah.
that courage, and I stress on that word courage, and bravery to actually find the truth though. And yeah, you gotta give him a round of applause for that. So yeah, rating wise, while it doesn't do anything new or original as far as documentaries go, it still was engaging, it still was entertaining. I dug it. Uh, I will give this a decent 4 out of 5, man. This is absolutely worth checking out. Unless you just not into historical media or whatnot. Uh,
Right.
yeah, I don't see any reason for you to check it out. Because there are people out there who may find stuff like this to be kind of, boring. But I don't know. I was just engaged from the word go. I was loving everything about it. Did blow my mind. Unfortunately, though, I wanted to have it up there, like, say, like a OG made in America. But still, for what it
Right.
was, for
Right.
what it was going for,
Yeah.
yeah, this
That,
was solid.
yeah. Like you admitted that OJ Made in America spoiled us. Like holy shit.
I know,
So
boy.
we
So
was
every time you
expecting
see
some
something
insane and
about,
amazing.
like, yeah, every time you see a documentary that based on history is like, why can't it be as great as OJ? You know what I
Right.
mean? But yeah, for what they were going for, Who Killed Malcolm X is as great as it could get to it. So, what's
Right.
your last words and rating on this show?
Yeah, no, I give it a 8 out of 10. Solid for me. Again, I just felt it could have really bring something new to the table narrative wise, but I didn't really get much of that.
Right, fair enough.